Good morning, magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Maayong buntag kaninyong tanan. It's a rainy day and it's a Monday, just like the Carpenter's song. But anyway, we'll sing that later on perhaps. I'm former Press Secretary Mike Toledo from the administration of President Joseph Erap Estrada. And this is The Spokes. With one of the more, if not very, outspoken voices on public accountability, joining our discussion is former Sanlakas Party List Representative, the founding dean of John Wesley School of Law at Wesleyan University-Philippines, none other than Attorney Virgilio Bautista, or otherwise known as Attorney JV. Magandang umaga po, Attorney JV, and welcome to The Spokes.
Magandang umaga, Mike, Panyero Mike. At magandang umaga sa lahat ng inyong mga tagapakinig.
Alam mo, Attorney JV, perhaps bago kita tanungin sa mga matitinding tanong na I'm sure ang ating mga tagapakinig at taong bayan ay gusto nilang marinig, no? On public accountability, on Artikulo Onse, on the impeachment, and the ongoing budget deliberations, etc., etc. Bigyan natin ng konting background, no? About you. You were, I recall, we were more or less contemporary at the UP College of Law, and definitely you became a very active human rights lawyer. Matagal ka na rin sa naging isang human rights lawyer, and naging dean ka rin ng isang eskwelahan, no? So yung public life mo talagang very productive, so to speak. So sa inyong pananaw, ano ang pinaka nagbago sa pananaw ninyo sa batas at sa politika sa loob ng mahigit na 3 dekada na ikaw ay naging very active at naging member ka din ng Kongreso representing Sanlakas, kung hindi ako nagkakamali?
Well, siyempre marami na tayong naging progress. Kaya lang, it leaves much to be desired. Kasi medyo nakakabitin eh. You know, I was a student activist before I became a lawyer. I was with the Philippine Collegian. I was president of the College Editors Guild of the Philippines and LFS Secretary General. You know, that's the League of Filipino Students. That was the most militant and radical student organizations during our time.
Natandaan ko yun, yung LFS na si, if I recall, yung dating head, si Leandro.
Lian Alejandro, on the other hand, was not LFS. He was the president of the UP Student Council.
I see.
Yes. So while you were reviewing your law books, Mike, I was actually out in the streets. So I reviewed for the bar, actually in the streets, and gladly I was able to pass it. Now, when Cory Aquino took over after the dictatorship of Marcos was ousted, there was a high degree of expectation na marami talagang babaguhin. Unfortunately, ito kasing mga progressive sectors, I'm particularly referring to the left, na sideline because of their boycott position. Or rather, I should say, our boycott position, because I was then with the Bagong Alyansa Makabayan. No?
Okay.
And this paved the way for many of the allies of Cory Aquino who were from the more conservative sectors to come in. Kaya yung ating constitution, if you noticed, wala tayong divorce. We are the only country now without divorce. Can you imagine that? Probably us in Vatican City. But in Vatican City, wala naman nagdi-divorce dyan. Puro pari yan eh. Tsaka, mga obispo, di ba? Mga kardinal.
Alam mo, JV, ako talaga, akin din pananaw. I'm not really totally against the charter change, no, to a certain extent, revisions of certain provisions of the Constitution, which sa aking pananaw ay anti-development. And then, you know, sinasabi nga nila, ito yung pinakamahabang Constitution, it's the most verbose.
It is verbose, yes.
It doesn't allow the legislature the flexibility to adjust to the changing times.
Correct.
Kasi masyadong specific nakita mo yung US Constitution that they've been there for more than 200 years.
Yes.
And it has only little amendments through the years because the basic, shall we say, inalienable truths and rights should be preserved. But you must allow the legislature who will then craft laws to adjust to the changing times.
Correct.
That is why I'm open to that. But before we even touch on that, di ba naging member ka ng Kongreso? And very active at that.
Yes.
And then, if I recall, from 2001 to 2004, then bigla ka na lang nawala sa politiko. I mean, being an elected member. Bakit hindi ka bumalik ulit sa politika? Or ngayon ba'y naisipan mong bumalik na sa politika?
Actually, I tried in 2013.
Oo.
I ran under the slate of President Erap. That was 2010, I'm sorry. 2010. In 2010, remember that President Estrada was released from his detention.
Yes.
And he was pardoned, enabling him to run again for president. This was 2010. And I was drafted. Hindi naman ako nag-apply doon, Mike. I just saw in the newspaper one morning that my name was included by Senate President Ernie Maceda
So the senatorial
as among the senatorial preferences of ERAP. And so I had to, I went to his house in Green Hills, and sure enough, I was drafted. His Vice President, Jojo Binay, made it. And I think a couple of senators only, like JPE and Jingo Estrada. All the rest of us were not able to make it. Kasi noon, alam mo naman ang eleksyon natin, especially pag senator, mahal na yan eh.
But
you
how
need
did you
a
rank?
tremendous amount of logistics.
That's true, but how did you rank at the time?
I ranked among some of the lowest. My ranking was very low. I did not have a chance. I did not have a real good chance of making it. And then in 2013, while I was serving as spokesperson and political consultant of the office of the Vice President, during the term of Jojo Binay, I also ran in Nueva Ecija for the 3rd District. This is where the city of Cabanatuan is located. No? Kasi I had a pretty good practice in Cabanatuan City and in Nueva Ecija. Some of my clients were the leading politicians there. Mga Mahoson, mga mayors, mga Vergara. So I thought I had a good chance. And Vice President Binay also thought that I would have a good chance. Pwede kang lumaban doon, sabi niya. And then, paglaban niya sa 2016, I could join him and I could join his government.
Yes.
Kaya lang, again, logistics became the problem. Kasi whenever I run, when you spend your own money in politics, Mike,
You shouldn't.
you shouldn't. That's foolish.
Yes.
That's foolish. If nobody is going to spend for you in politics, it means you are going to lose. Di ba? So, you have to wait for somebody to come over and offer to spend for you. In 2010, it was ERAP. So, sabi ni ERAP, you join me, I will handle all your expenses for the Senate. But of course, it was not enough. Dahil kahit si ERAP natalo di ba? In 2013, of course, Binay was there, and Mayor J. Vergara, who was then the powerful mayor of Cabanatuan City, who is also one of the wealthiest among the politicians in Nueva Ecija, were my allies. And therefore, somehow I thought that logistics would be enough.
Pero
but
hindi
it
pa rin.
wasn't. Kaya, my two attempts did not make it. Kaya I went back to private practice.
Dapat siguro now, if you do plan to do another attempt, then you must make sure that the logistics are intact and ready for you. Because we need, I personally believe, we need somebody your caliber.
Thank you very much, Mike.
But Attorney JV, isa ding aspeto ng buhay mo, ikaw isang educator, ikaw isang dean, ikaw isang professor. As a professor, ano bang sinasabi mo sa mga law students mo about law and Philippine politics?
Okay. First of all, ang focus ko whenever I teach law, I usually handle remedial law cases, procedure.
Procedure.
Kasi practitioner tayo I have been in
porsyento yun sa bar.
I have been in practice for more than 40 years. As courtroom litigator, ha?
Yes.
Kaya I know the life of rough and tumble litigation. Okay. So ang una kong sinasabi sa estudyante ko, efficiency. You have to be competent lawyers.
Yes.
You have to know the law. You have to know the procedure. No? But you have to mix that and balance that with integrity. You have to be good lawyers naman, ethical lawyers. Hindi pwede na papasok ka dyan, marami kang alam, tapos dadayain mo yung kaso, no? Lulunukin mo yung ebidensya, for example. I heard of an actual case.
I know of a lawyer,
I heard of an
actually.
actual case.
I know
Who
of a
did
lawyer,
that, no?
yeah. He
Masyado
passed
yatang
away
malakas
already.
yung evidence sa documentary. Ang ginawa niya, while no one was
Yeah.
looking, he snatched the evidence and swallowed it. Di ba?
Narinig ko yan.
Of course.
Hindi urban legend. Totoo
Yeah,
yan.
urban legend. So I was telling my students, don't go into this kind of shenanigans. No, you have to be upright, moral, and good lawyers.
Good.
You have to be committed to the profession. You have to be professional. You cannot just go into the courtroom and do everything to win. That's not how it is. You will win because of your preparation, your understanding of the case, the merit of your case, of course. Kasi kung hindi masyadong meritorious yung kaso, mahirapan ka eh. But if it is meritorious, there's no reason for you to lose it.
Yes.
Especially if you study the case very well and you are prepared to face the other party.
Sabi nga nila, JV, di ba, it's really 99% perspiration and 1% inspiration. At I remember, may nagsabi sa akin noon, if you know the facts and you're strong on the facts, pound on the facts.
Pound on the facts.
If you know the law and strong on the law, pound on the law.
Pound on the law.
But if you're neither strong in the facts of the law, pound on the table.
Pound on the table. But Mike, I also instill on my students their concern for society.
Yes.
No? Of course, lawyering is really by design and by its nature a very conservative profession. Kasi tayo, di ba, we look to precedents eh. We look to decided cases. We do not blaze trails eh. Di ba? That's how it is. So I tell my students, do not get bogged down into this kind of a mindset. You know, look for innovative things and try to be of service to your country, to your nation. Huwag naman puro iisipin mo lang to be able to win your case tapos kikita ka, no?
Kaya pakinggan yung mabuti po ang advice ni Attorney JV. Now, Attorney JV, isa sa mga rason kaya inimbita ka namin dito kasi kailangan siguro malaman ng ating mga tagapakinig ng taong bayan kung anong ginagawa mo with respect to accountability of our public officials. Kayo po ngayon, you are now the convener of Artikulo Onse or Article 11. Nakuha natin yan sa Philippine Constitution.
Yes.
Siguro, can you share with us, ano ba itong Artikulo 11 at sino yung mga kasama mo dito? But bago mo sagutin yan, kasi mahiling nga kami dito sa tinatawag na suspense, answer that when we come back. The spokes will return after the short break. Don't touch that clicker. Stay with us. Welcome back and thanks for joining us. You're still watching The Spokes and together with me, of course, is Attorney JV Bautista. And this time, I thought I was going to be a lonely Monday because rainy days and Mondays and without Margot pa always gets me down. Welcome. Welcome, Margot.
Thank you so much. I would
you
like
made it.
to apologize. There's road blockage. So I did not anticipate that there would be road blockage. I was anticipating, there's no baha usually on my way here, but the road, I left my house at 7:30, which I usually do. Yeah,
Yes.
so it's really long and like going around Mandaluyong. So sorry, but I'm so happy to be here. Good morning. And sana po lahat ng mga kababayan natin na apektuhan ng ulan ngayon, okay lang po sana po kayong lahat.
Yeah, just hang in there as we go into our hanging question.
Wala naman daw pasok today. So, for
talaga?
schools.
For schools. And
in Manila, at least in Manila.
How about government?
Government, QC meron pa rin. However, there's some government agencies that work from home.
I see. Talaga naman, that's another topic altogether to talk about how to really solve
I
this
heard what you were
flood
talking
issue.
about. Kayo talaga, para kayong hindi ERAP boys. Kinokontra nyo ang divorce. Hindi nyo ba alam yung sinabi ni ERAP tungkol dyan? Ang asawa hindi iniiwanan, dinadagdagan. Mali po yan. Huwag po kayong makikinig dyan. Okay, joke lang po yun ngayong maulan na umaga.
That's Margot's words of wisdom for this Monday rainy morning. Now, we go to the hanging question. Kasi nga, ang ating mga tagapakinig, ang ating taong bayan, they want to know, ano ba talaga itong Artikulo 11 at sino ang mga kasama mo dito?
Yeah. Well, first of all, good morning, Margot.
Good morning, Attorney G.
You seem to be in a good mood today.
Dami ko energy.
Despite the
So
traffic,
tense
ano?
coming here.
This is some kind of a reunion.
Correct.
Kasi parang mga
Yes.
lahat tayo at
Yes.
one time or another have been associated with President Erap.
Yes.
One of the most beloved presidents of this country, I dare say.
You
Now,
ran for Senate under him, sir, di ba?
I ran in the
Yes.
Senate, yes. And when I lost, I was made part of the group of Jojo Binay. So whenever Erap needed something from the Vice President, because Jojo was now siga-siga dahil Vice President siya, di ba? I remember one time when Tony Abacan of Metro Bank.
Yes. I remember Tony. Yes.
You remember Tony? He
very
sat
much.
in the monetary board,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
Si Tony, parang nagtampo si Binay sa kanya during the election. He was inaccessible. Ano? So, there was this awarding by Metro Bank, and Binay is supposed to be the guest
honor.
guest of honor.
Yeah.
Ayaw niyang kausapin si Tony Abacan. So, Tony he ran to Erap. Ano? Asking if he could be the go-between. So Erap calls me and asks me to talk to the Vice President and, patch things up. So that's what I did. So we all became friends. Sabi ni Jojo Binay noon, yung si Tony kasi totoo kong kaibigan yan. Everything he wanted in Makati, I gave him. But during the time when I was beleaguered because I was running for the Vice Presidency, I could not get him. I could not get hold of him. Ang sabi lang ni Erap, sabihin mo naman sa kanya, Tony had a boss. And the boss was the one who's supposed to be responsible for what's happening, not him. So it was all patched up.
So ever
thankfully.
since po, when you ran for the Senate, you have already been fighting against corruption.
Since
So
I was a
let's go
student,
back to your hanging question.
Yes.
Let's just
Artikulo
tie it
Onse.
in.
actually, since
Yeah.
I was a student, Margo, because I fought the Marcos dictatorship. And for that, nakulong ako ng, I think, 2 months. No? For 2 months. I was in jail at Fort Bonifacio together with the late Lian Alejandro. Kaming dalawa yung nakakulong doon. Can you imagine a detention center designed for 2,000 people and there were only 2 of us, Lian Alejandro and myself. And the only reason why I was able to, Lian and I, were able to get ourselves released was because John Kerry, the United States Senator, visited the country, and the day before he was to talk to Marcos, he talked to Cory Aquino and asked Cory Aquino, is there anything you want me to relate to the president? No, I don't want any favors from him. But on the other hand, sabi niya, there are these 2 boys. They're just practically boys. And they are detained in Fort Bonifacio. Can you ask the president if they can just release these 2 boys? Ayun.
So you owe your liberty pala to Senator John Kerry.
To President Cory.
And even to Cory. Even to Cory.
I think he became Secretary of State eventually. if I'm not
Secretary of State,
mistaken.
because he ran for the presidency,
Yeah.
but he lost,
Yes, yes.
unfortunately.
I think the convention he lost already,
Yeah,
no?
no.
Or in
He
the-
was able to make it in the convention.
Democratic Convention.
And he ran a Republican candidate.
Paano ho kayo
over
kilala
him.
ni then, at the time, she was not president yet, di ba? She was the housewife. She was the wife of then Senator Ninoy Aquino.
Yes. We have not met her.
She just read it in the news? And how did she know about
We were
it?
in the newspapers almost every day, Margo. We were in the newspapers, Lian and I, because of the circumstances of our arrest. Ang nag-arrest sa amin si General Lim of
And you were
Western
arrested
Police.
because?
Yes.
We were negotiating in behalf of one of the spokes here, to Sinani Braganza, led a march of students. No? Nung nandun na sila sa Aurora, they were suddenly dispersed by the Northern Police District. That's Quezon City. So they all ran to the convent in SFI. This is a convent of nuns. Na nandun naman kami dalawa ni Lian because we had a meeting with Chino Roses. No?
Yes.
Natapos na yung meeting namin, ito na si Nani Braganza. He became congressman and then mayor and then peace talks negotiator. But he was then president of the La Salle student government. And he was an activist himself. So sabi niya, Lian, JV, tulungan mo kami mag-negotiate with the police. So we went out of the convent. Some of them went in. And we talked to the Northern Police, at that time, Colonel Dula Torres. I remember his name . So na-convince na namin siya na wag nang mag-disperse kasi nandun na sa loob ng ng SFI convent, sabi ni Dula Torres. So, okay, I'm okay, but you have to contend with them. then there was a contingent of Western police. Nandun si General Lim, we did not recognize him because he was in civilian clothes. Sila yan, tough-talking sila yan, Bakit nyo i-disperse? They're already inside the private surrounding. Private property na yan. You cannot just get them. Gusto ko sabi ni Lim. So, he was collared. And he was thrown to the police officers. Now, I was then waiting for the results of the bar exams. Kasi kakagraduate ko noon. And then, I delayed the taking of my bar by 1 year.
Yeah.
So, I took the bar in 1984. Dahil may mga aso noon, mga PCO, yung mga ganun, arrest, search, and seizure order, So I couldn't take the bar because I was in peril of being arrested. So hindi pa ako lawyer noon. I didn't know what to do. I froze. But then suddenly, it came to my mind, you try to act like a lawyer. So, alam mo, amusingly, I shouted, objection! I said, I object to this arrest. You have no warrant. You cannot arrest him. When you come to think about it, parang napaka-amateurish naman itong na to. Well, at that time, I was not yet a lawyer.
So, fired up.
I was fired up. And I was trying to act like a lawyer, di ba? Under a situation of a police operation. So, sabi na lang ni Lim, gano'n nag-object ka pa dyan. O sige, kunin din to si Bautista. So, dalawa na kami na kulong.
Kasi itong experience mo na nangyari ito, at such an early age, underbar ka pa nga, nakulong ka. Ito siguro talaga ang isa sa mga dahilan. Kaya tinayo nyo itong Artikulo Onse, which is based on the Constitution, Article 11.
Article 11, which is a new article.
Yes.
You cannot find that in the 35 and in the 73 Constitution.
And is it because of the happenings that, like, for example, that you experienced, the martial law dictatorship? Was that a result of that?
I was detained for a second time during the time of Gloria Macapagal. Because this was already after I became a congressman. Tapos na ako, congressman na ako. So, yung mga pulis, nung inaaresto ko, this was in Manila Pen. With Vice President Gingona, General Danny Lim, Senator Trillanes. Kami yun Kami yung inaresto noon. So I was there. And the police officers were trying to put, not really handcuffs, but yung plastic na yung plastic na pang ganun lang. So, Congressman, kukunin namin ho kayo. Sige, just do not make it too tight, please. Yung pwede ko tanggalin when you load me in the bus. Opo. But against yung mga sundalo, they were really cruel and tough. Sinisipa nila habang nakaluhod. So, I spent detention for about 15 days, but I was already a lawyer by the time.
Kasama pala kayo dun sa Manila Pen siege. Si Pinky Webb nandun nun Siya yung nag-report noong time na yun, di ba?
Yes, I always encounter Pinky Webb. During the Marine siege, of Colonel Kirubin, when the episode was over, si Pinky Webb ang nakausap namin. She was there. Pinky Webb is always very active pagdating sa mga ganyan.
JV, kasi balikan natin ulit yung Artikulo Onse, At talagang kailangan natin malaman una bakit nyo tinayo ito at bakit ka kumuha ng naging convener ka together with these other guys. Clearly, na-explain mo na, more or less, kasi nga, yun nga, because of your experience. So siguro, I'll try to focus on some points, being a champion for public accountability. Palagi this is a question that always pops in my head, especially when it concerns public accountability and the necessity of public officials to account for every fund that goes into their hands, that's supposed to be for public use. Merong RA 1379, which is civil forfeiture. It is a 1955 old law. And in that law, klarong-klaro, simple lang. Pag ikaw ay isang public official at binigyan ka ng pondo na para gamitin for a public purpose, at ang lifestyle mo ay totally different from your assets and liabilities, there is already a prima facie presumption or a presumption na ito'y ninakaw mo. And that is a statutory presumption which you have to rebut as a public official. So in other words, unlike other cases wherein the prosecution must prove beyond reasonable doubt your guilt, in this case, partner, is that the onus probandi or the burden of proof to prove that you you can actually, that amount is not illegal. Why? Because either you inherited it, either it was acquired it to legitimate means,
Yes.
like business. Di ba? Pero ang tanong ko, bakit this is not being used? Why is it sparingly, if not used at all, when you can actually have a criminal case for plunder, a criminal case for malversation, falsification of public documents, and this proceeding can proceed on its own. It's not mutually exclusive.
Yes.
At pag na-forfeit mo yan, may freezing pa of assets, at least, di ba, mapipreserve mo yung pera ng taong bayan. So bakit hindi ito ginagamit?
Remember, Mike, for these anti-graft and corruption laws to be triggered, there must be a complainant. It's not self-executing, di ba? So kailangan muna may magreklamo eh. Of course, madali naman magreklamo sa ombudsman. And I'm very glad about Boying Remulla being the ombudsman now. Kasi parang proactive siya eh. Parang tough guy talaga siya. He seems to be on top of the situation and he wants to really go after those who have to be accountable. Ngayon, you are right. Marami naman tayo anti-graft laws eh. Republic Act 3019, gano'ng katagal na yan? You were not even born yet, I think, when that law was passed. I'm not sure, but I think you're very young.
Even the forfeiture law, it was
Oo,
1955.
even, lalo na yung forfeiture law,
yeah.
di ba? Yung forfeiture law, parang accessory lang naman yan eh. It doesn't hold criminally liable eh. Unless there is a penal provision there. I'm not very familiar with that law.
It's civil.
Oo,
but,
it's civil. It's
yes.
more really civil eh. To be able for the government to recover,
Yes.
di ba? Recover the looted property. Marami namang presumptions na na working against the public official eh. For example, if you are a public official, you receive money and there is no apparent reason why you receive that money. O edi na yun, plunder na yun pag umabot ng 50 million. That is why Marcoleta is in jail. Di ba? So we have enough. But we need to be able to implement these laws very well. Kaya namin binuo itong Artikulo Onse is because of the primarily because of the flood control scam. Remember when President Marcos more than a year ago delivered his SONA last year, no? Sabi niya mahiya naman kayo. Di ba? Kasi and then this was followed by a series of expose, pinakita niya yung mga malalaking mga kontratista, di ba? And then sumikat na yung pangalan ng kontratista because
Contractor.
Oo, mga contractor, no? The congressmen were now the kontratista. Di ba? Kasi nung araw naman kami, wala naman ako alam na kontratista during my time. That was 2001 eh. Panahon na-oust na si Erap in 2001. Si Gloria na noon eh.
Yes.
Pero wala kaming alam eh. And more or less the party list was still pristine. Ang umuupo dyan talagang mga galing Sanlakas, Bayan Muna,
Sectoral
Akbayan, ganyan. Mga people's organizations talaga yan. Until the Supreme Court opened it up and said that anybody can join. No? Kaya tingnan mo ngayon. Saldi ko. Party list.
Was it because of the Supreme Court?
Yes.
The
There was a
Supreme
decision
Court,
by the Supreme Court
which actually they interpreted.
which opened the floodgates
Yeah.
to allow anyone, just say that this is your advocacy, you can get in. And it is up to the COMELEC naman to implement that. COMELEC is very loose.
Dagdag ko lang, JB. Kaya nga, di ba, earlier pinag-usapan natin that I strongly feel there should be some amendments to this Constitution. Isa na rin yun sa aking pananaw dahil nagkaroon ng party list, no? At nagkaroon tayo ng a president that on the sheer popularity, at the party will follow the popular candidate, so to
Yes.
speak. Kasi unang-una, tinanggal yung two-party system. And they say it was a knee-jerk reaction because of the martial law years. They felt that that's the reason why martial law happened to begin with, which is definitely wrong. It's a wrong premise. Kasi ang maganda nun sa mayroon kang dalawang major dominant parties is the parties can vet the candidate themselves. So you'll have the best and the brightest supposedly from each party to come up and run. No? Just like what they have in the United States and even other Western liberal democracies. But ang nangyari dito, yun nga, tinanggal yun, ginawa ng multi-party system, partner, and then nagdesisyon ng Supreme Court, tapos nagkaroon pa ng, nagkaroon pa ng party list law
Iba
at
pa po yung
binaboy.
sa party list kasi. Yung sa party list naman, they're supposed to be the voice of those that are not represented by the
marginalized.
district.
And
Opo, yung
underrepresented.
marginalized.
Correct.
However ngayon, parang you make your name popular,
Correct.
di ba? May Pacman, may mga ganyan, di ba?
Si Saldi ko nga,
And
one of
then-
the biggest contractors, di ba, he owns Misibis Bay.
Yes.
Why is it that he is in the party list? Does he represent any marginalized sector? Marginalized by kontratista, di ba?
And
I
then
mean, it's an
dynasties,
absurdity.
Dynasties,
And dynasties,
they make
andyan
it
na.
their, that's
na
where
term
they put
limit.
their kids,
Na term
their
limit.
children.
So, doon na lang papasok, di ba? Alam mo, friend ko si friend ko si Secretary ng DAR, Estrella.
Ah,
no?
si Conrad.
Oo, friend ko yan kasi nagkasabay kami sa Congress. And he's a very nice fellow. I like him. Kaya lang, nung natapos na siya doon sa term niya, nag-party list siya, nag-abono party list, and he sat in Congress again. Tapos yung kamag-anak niya ang nagpunta doon sa district. I mean, this is now a vehicle for dynasties. You're correct, Margo. Ngayon, ang problema kasi, Mike, ganito When they drafted a constitution, they had no ideological vision or focus to begin with. Chop suey, di ba? You had conservative clergy there. Ando sila Sister Christine Tan but Christine Tan is okay because she is progressive. Pero andun din yung mga, sila Father Joaquin Bernas, no? Meron pa yatang isang bishop dun if I'm not mistaken, perhaps Bacani Parang si Bacani yan nandun
Yes.
Oo. Tapos andun naman, marami doon mga traditional politicians. Di ba? Of course, jurists like Cecilia Muñoz Palma. Her integrity is okay, but she's very conservative. Di ba? In her views. In her ideological views. Conservative yan. Tapos nandun yung mga you have a handful of progressives. Sila Jimmy Tadeo was there, Lino Broco was there. So okay sila, no?
Sila yung gumawa ng Artikulo Onse ninyo.
Maybe they did. But, Artikulo Onse is not really a very radical provision
Yeah.
It's not a radical provision.
But
It doesn't really change society so much.
But do you plan to make it a political force? Because right now,
Yes.
you're an advocacy for accountability.
Yes.
But do you plan to make this a political force?
Yes, we do.
And
Yes, we do.
considering you're celebrating your 1-year anniversary
We are
already,
practically, yes. Kasama ko
maybe
dito
we can
sila
talk about
Erin Tanyada.
what you've achieved.
Yes, oo, sila. We have mga union leaders like Leody De Guzman and Luke Espiritu, nandiyan kami, no? When we launched this was after, as I said, the
Eruption of the flood control
eruption,
scandal.
Dinisclose, di ba? Na merong ganito. It has been happening so long, but nobody was talking about it. Kasi itong si Speaker pala, Romualdez, at saka itong si Saldico, di ba, kinokontrol nila yung appropriations kinukuha na nila yung pera Which never happened during my time in Congress. Alam mo, meron kami lahat kami may allocation na CDF, Countrywide Development Fund. 50 million a year for hard. Yan yung mga karsada.
Infrastructure.
And I think about 20 million for soft. Ito yung mga bomba ng tubig, scholarship, ganyan. Cash yan
Countrywide Development Fund, yan ang tinatawag natin, pork barrel.
Pork barrel, yes. Pork barrel. Kaya lang, in pork barrel, halimbawa, yung congressman, magpapagawa ng karsada, ituturo mo lang. And then, usually may mga alaga na silang kontratista dyan. Yun ang mananalo sa bidding sa DPWH. The congressman gets back, malaki na yung 10%. Pagka 20% yan, matakaw na yung congressman yan. Kasi if you don't take it, somebody else will Kukunin rin ng DPWH yan, kukunin din ng kontratista yan Talagang ganyan ang may leak May leak. But this time around, kinukuha na nila lahat kasi tinanggal ng Supreme Court yung pork barrel. So bawal na yan. You do not give allocations anymore to legislators.
Naging creative na sila.
Naging creative ngayon to.
I know, marami
Anong ginagawa?
ng
Insertions, di ba? Insertions na. Yung pork barrel nakatakay na doon sa budget Kaya ngayon kailangan mag-iingat tayo dito sa budget. Nag-iingat naman last year Pero
Masyado nga maingat.
Masyado nang maingat.
Bumaba masyado
Wala na
yung
tayong
GDP
infrastructure
Kaya nga masyado nang maingat na medyo kaya bumaba yung ating government spending, kaya bumaba rin ating growth.
Wala
But
tayong
necessary
infrastructure.
safeguards, I
Correct,
think.
correct.
How can you develop? How can you progress kung wala tayong infrastructure? Why will investors come to this country? Kung nakikita nila, wala tayong binubuon mga
And
infrastructure.
that is the
Attorney-
quandary.
Exactly. Now, Attorney JV, meron kaming tinatawag dito na hanging question. So, ang hanging question namin para sa iyo is with the impeachment, you said that the problem is not just VP Sara, but The problem is the system itself. How can the impeachment trial actually deliver accountability here, in your view?
Yeah. Hanging.
Hanging, but before you answer this,
Yeah.
the spokes will return shortly after this break.
Don't go away.
And the spokes is back, still with Attorney JV Bautista. But before we answer our hanging question, let's acknowledge the viewers tuned in live to the spokes. From Joseph Orly Espedido, good morning from Kuwait. Ay, good morning po. And from Rosa, good morning spokes Mike and spokes Margot. Good morning.
Morning! Mayong
And-
buntag!
And question from Bong Sanchez. Talagang ang politics ay pera-pera po ba? Oh, ang lungkot naman, hindi dapat.
Oo nga.
And, ay, pera-pera ba?
Oo.
Yan po ba ang inyong
Oo. It's one of the
nararamdaman
ano
din?
ngayon. It's one of the banes of our politics now, ano. Kaya bibihira ka na makahanap ng yung hindi well endowed eh. Mabuti lang we have the kind of LGU officials like Vico Soto, no. We have people like Chel Jokno in Congress, no. Okay yan mga yan. They are able to make it. Chel Jokno because of sheer machinery of ano ang pangalan ng kanya, Akbayan, ano? And Vico Soto, he was able to transform yung charisma niya and the mechanism in Pasig of the people's organizations to catapult him to office. Kaya hindi na siya matanggal-tanggal doon ng mga ano ng mga yung dynasty doon dati. Pero they are the exceptions that prove the general rule that if you do not have the logistics, you cannot get into office especially high public office.
So siguro kailangan natin i-bisitahin or i-revive o magkaroon ng batas na that would actually provide campaign funds for people who are qualified. Kasi in other countries, if I'm not mistaken, may law sila na ganun na may campaign contribution, may paraan kung paano sila makaka-generate ng funding and not just rely on,
Tsaka
political arguments.
I wish we had a really good, honest to goodness, COMELEC with integrity. Lagi na lang, ako as a practicing lawyer, lagi kong tingin ko sa COMELEC, medyo much to be desired
Pero
if you have
sometimes
money, you can win in COMELEC Kaya merong word na COMELECted COMELECted. Nanalo ka sa eleksyon pero nagprotesta yung kalaban mo, they have enough money, they can pay off the
Pero
commissioners.
sometimes, di ba, it's the system already itself. Parang napasok na ng mga candidates. Like, for example, yung mga watchers. Di ba, usually, dapat yung mga watchers, sila yung magkukusang magbantay para sa'yo.
Correct.
Pero ang ginagawa ng ibang kandidato, ginagamit yung mga watchers para sila yung ginagawang pera-pera sa kanila.
Yan ang paraan para makakuha ka ng boto.
lagay.
For example, yung buong barangay na ganyan, kukunin mo sila lahat na watchers, lahat sila mababayaran mo. Di ba?
And
That's
yung
a form of
pamilya
vote
nila.
buying. Vote buying yun. The COMELEC is not, I don't know, it's not powerful enough maybe, but we don't want to give it too much power. Kasi naman, yun nga you're not even sure of the people who run it
Pero
Most
yung
of the time,
COMELEC ngayon with George Garcia, he's been doing a good job with digitalization. Dinidigitalize
totoo
niya
yun.
lahat ngayon.
Talagang
Well, digitalization should really
magtrabaho
have,
to si
must
Chairman
have
Garcia.
solved many of the problems. Kasi in fact,
Meron-
wala namang inspector ngayon.
Meron pa po tayong isa pang viewer,
Maraming
listener.
viewers.
Actually, suki po natin ito. Meron po tayong question from Purples and Roses.
Para sa'yo.
And for you po, a personal question. What made you run under the banner of ERAP? Did you agree with his style of leadership or principle, considering that you were progressive then? Let's
Magandang
just also
tanong.
recall that it was ERAP Binay. And you
Yes.
were, I
ERAP
think,
Binay.
aligned with Binay.
Yes. Ganito, si ERAP, when he was still senator, he was one of the leading figures which campaigned against the bases. He took a
Correct.
stand against the US
Yung
bases
Magnificent
early enough.
11 ba yun? Magnificent 12. They
yung
voted
sila sa
against.
Longga, di ba? When it started, it was really only Bobby Tanyada who was yung strongest
Vocal.
pillar dyan. Then eventually, ERAP signed in. So I was then in New York. At that time, I was then in New York kasi nag-aral ako sa Princeton sa New Jersey. I was on fellowship and ERAP was a guest in the Philippine consulate in New York. Nanood ako. And that's the time when we met each other. I told him that I salute him for his position on the basis. He even made a movie Di ba?
Oh yes, sa
with
mga
Nikki
kuko
Cositeng.
ng Agila.
Sa kuko ng Agila.
If I'm not mistaken.
Ang leading
Yeah,
lady niya,
si Senator
Nikki Cositeng.
Totoo yun.
They didn't have a realistic kissing scene, by the way, no? Parang
What do you mean by not a realistic kissing scene?
parang Nikki was not up to it eh. Hindi kasi siya actress eh, di ba? Kaya there was not enough feeling maybe. Anyway, so I saluted Erap for that. Sabi ko, this guy is nationalistic enough. And whenever we talk, nung natanggalan siya ng president, he was telling me, he resisted Bill Clinton eh. When he was waging the war in Mindanao. Tinawagan daw siya ni Bill Clinton eh. President Bill Clinton, na hintuin yung kanyang ginagawa doon. Because I think at that time, the US was having some interest in trying to develop something in Mindanao.
Correct.
He did not agree. And he thinks that was one of the reasons why he was ousted in 2001.
Yun yung war sa Marawi.
Oo. Ngayon, si Jojo Binay naman, mabini lawyer yan.
Yes.
At saka, he was a member of the guerrilla anak pawis ng kalunsuran of Nemesio Prudente, then the president of PUP.
Yes.
This was a really progressive group, no? Radical yan. And revolutionary. So I said, I can go with this group. Kasi, I cannot go with Pinoy. Dahil Hacienda Luisita eh. Di ba? Hindi ako pwede dyan. I can't go with Villar. Kasi that would be selling my integrity and my reputation. Nobody will believe you by saying na, hindi naman ako binayaran niyan, hindi ako binigyan ng pondo niyan. Kung si Villar ang head, di ba? Lahat sila doon, kahit yung mga slate niya. Unfortunately, may mga bayan muna slate siya doon.
So last choice niyo po yung Erap Binay pala?
Ha?
Last choice ninyo?
Alin?
Erap Binay
Ako?
slate?
Hindi naman. Hindi naman. It was a natural choice.
Yeah,
for me.
natural.
It
May
was
isa pa po
natural.
tayong question.
And it was
Yes.
not really a choice, Margo. I was explaining to Mike a while ago. I did not apply for the position.
You're
I read
invited.
in the newspaper that
His
I
name was already
being
there.
drafted. Oo.
May question po tayo from Marshall P. There are rumors that VP Sara has asked PBBM for a closed-door meeting. If you were president, would you agree? If you were PBBM?
PBBM should not. You know, the Dutertes are known for their tactics of betrayal. No? Papayag yan ngayon because she's beleaguered. Pero you do not know what will happen later on. Especially, kasi, to me, if Sara Duterte survives this impeachment, the chances of her becoming president will increase, exponentially increase. Kasi survivor siya eh. And people like strong leaders, no? Nag-survive. Kaya, this poses an existential threat naman to the Marcoses. Not Amy, ha? Kasi si Amy mukhang nag-defect eh. She's the Marcos who defected. But to Bongbong Marcos and Lisa Marcos and maybe the Marcos dynasty that they are developing, it's going to be existential. Why? If Duterte becomes president, what do you think will happen to Marcos? She will have her revenge. And it will be a sweet revenge. Kaya, I think, itong impeachment na to, this is going to play out in the way na, you know, ako ang tingin ko hindi pwedeng walang handang Malacanang dito. Alam mo si Corona na convict because of Malacanang's hand. I have no doubt about that. Wala namang kasalanan si Corona eh. Alam mo yung hindi lang niya inilagay sa salin niya. Is that impeachable? I don't believe it is, Mike. Yeah. Kaya kayo natalo dyan. I was explaining that, di ba, sa inyo ni Karen. Yeah. Kaya kayo natalo dyan. Kasi si Butchabad, pinagbibigyan nireleasan ng mga milyon, daang milyong piso, ito mga senador. Tingnan mo yung mga hindi tumanggap. Joker Arroyo, acquit. Di ba? O, Miriam Defensor, acquit. BBM, siguro ayaw bigyan ni Noynoy eh. Kasi Marcos yan eh. Ba't ko bibigyan ng pera yan? So, acquit. Di ba? All the rest, kinunvict. O, ngayon, eto na ngayon. Look at the dynamics in the Senate now. Di ba?
So are you saying po na lahat ng mga senador noon, nilagyan lang, kaya na-convict?
May hanging question tayo. Kasi we're running out of time, no? So, can the impeachment trial deliver accountability if the problem is the system and not just VP Sara?
Okay. Nice question. But it's hanging, so, or do I answer it
You
now?
can answer now.
I'll answer it now. Okay. Mike, the trouble with the impeachment now is they are over-judicializing it. No? I cannot understand why they had to get Jesus Escudero to sit as presiding officer. Kaya naman ni Win yan eh. Kaya ni Tito Soto yan eh. Sana non-lawyer na lang para hindi ma-overjudicialize. Ngayon, itong mga house managers, I'll call them house managers kasi ang tawag nila sa sarili nila, public prosecutors. They're not public prosecutors.
Yes.
Fiscal yun
Yes,
di ba?
correct.
And tama si Robin Padilla, pagka public prosecutor, you cannot be one-sided. You have to look at the aims of justice, the ends of justice, rather than convicting the other party. Kasi public prosecutor ka. Now, these are house managers. Why are they giving the prosecution of the case, the presentation of evidence, to private lawyers? Now, the moment you do that, then you turn the impeachment court into a courtroom, into a regular courtroom where you have a lawyer seated as a presiding officer, you have another lawyer here presenting evidence, and a lawyer here defending the Vice President. So ano na yun, di ba? It becomes now a tournament of lawyers. It becomes a duel between lawyers. Remember, Mike, ang ating system of litigation is the adversarial It is not inquisitorial. Kasi kung inquisitorial ito, they will have to find the truth, search for the truth. Both parties, all parties, searching the truth. Pero pag adversarial yan, both parties will do everything they can to prove their advocacy. Di ba? May position yan Look at what's happening now. It's now all about the lawyers. Anong pinag-uusapan ngayon? Ay, ang galing-galing naman ni ang galing naman ni anong pangalan nito? Ni Kapunan. O itong kabila, bakit naman ganito? Nagpasok ng bata, ganyan. Sinasabi pa, misleading questions are allowed. In fairness to her, hindi naman ganun na nangyari Kasi I reviewed the video. Ang sinabi naman talaga ni Lorna, misleading questions are not allowed. Sabi niya. So sinabi niya yung leading Pero lately, ini-edit out doon sa mga reports Nakita ko At saka, even in the videos, bini-blur out Tapos, pinagbibintangan nila na ito si Atty. Ferrer na who cannot stand her ground. Kasi naman ito si Atty. Ferrer, hindi marunong magtanong ng leading question Kung magaling ito ng litigator, on cross-examination, you can really lead. And you should lead.
So, sir, you think with all of these, with the continuing impeachment trial, tingin niyo ba mananalo sa 2028 si VP Sara? Is it helping her?
Ang tingin ko makukonvict
That's your...
My take is that she will get convicted.
Fearless forecast.
Yes, fearless forecast. She will get convicted. They will be able to get 16. Or if the number is reduced, kasi
because of
there's a debate
Jinggoy,
on that.
Jinggoy is
Marcoleta,
no
and now
longer there,
Senator
and then
Lauren is
Bato,
abroad.
that will be lowered to 14.
Yes.
And my position there, Mike, and Panyera Margot, is that the Senate is supreme when it comes to impeachment. So that if they make a decision that the two-thirds to convict will only pertain to those who can vote, and not to count those who are beyond the reach and the jurisdiction of the Senate, then it is the call of the Senate. And the Supreme Court must not intervene. No?
It's a
It must
political
not.
question.
Pero ako, ang tingin ko dyan, meaning to say, if somebody files a petition for certiorari, it must be disregarded and dismissed by the Supreme Court. Pero ang tingin ko dyan, kahit yung 16 kaya Kaya na They already have 13. You only need 3 votes. Di ba? May tumakbo ngayon sa France. Di ba?
Magagalit ang mga Duterte. Tingin niyo po, nakita niyo yung nangyari sa mga past impeachments. Kung ma-convict si VP Sara, tingin niyo po ba magkakaroon ng EDSA 4?
Kung ma-convict? No, hindi na kaya. Hindi na kaya.
Nagpakita yung INC nung
INC was protesting against the arrest of Marcoleta. Were they able to succeed? No. The answer was no. Hindi na na-prevent Inaresto. Asan si Marcoleta ngayon? No bail, di ba? Nandun sa kulungan. Nakasuot ng orange, nakasuot ng yellow, naka-cuff. Di ba? Ngayon, ito namang impeachment, hindi naman pinag-uusapan yon. Ang pinag-uusapan lang, posisyon lang Di ba? So we are not talking here about proof beyond reasonable doubt. We are not talking here about all the rights of the accused under the Constitution. Di ba? Ang due process lang naman dito, you observe na may trial. Yun lang ang due process dyan. Pero hindi kasama sa due process dyan na lahat ng sasabihin ng prosecution, kailangan masasagot ng defense. Hindi naman dapat ganon. And that is what Chis Escudero is trying to do.
Let's end on a high note. What do we do to save the Philippines? Yan, last na. One sentence.
One sentence, revolution. That's my
Revolution
answer.
ng ano?
A people's-led revolution that will change the system from its roots. Just pull out the roots, build another society.
Okay.
Now,
Tony
if
Lopez said
revolution
too.
can be achieved without violence, without resort to arms, then that's what we should do.
Wow, that's on a very high note.
Okay, so thank you so
Yeah.
much, Attorney
Thank you
JV.
very
It's
much,
been a
Margaret.
pleasure
Thank you
having you
very
this
much, Mike.
morning.
Maraming salamat ulit, Attorney JV.
And
Now,
happy anniversary.
Yes, thank you very much.
Oh, happy anniversary, indeed. Will fairness and accountability survive political power in the impeachment trial?
When institutions are weak, justice favors those who have the power to enforce it. I'm former spokesperson Margo Salcedo.
And I'm former Press Secretary Mike Toledo.
And we are the Spokes.